School. This is our ritual 13 Moon Mystery School, and this is a new moon transmission. We really work with the codes of moon magic quite a lot, as well as with the sun magic through the wheel of the year. But in the way of the codes of the moon, there's a new moon and a full moon with each lunar cycle. And we are now entering the new moon of Pisces. So we'll go to the next slide. Ritual stands for remembrance, initiation, transmission, understanding, alchemy, and love. The next one. This is just something I wrote about what priestess means to me, so thought I'd include it here. A priestess lives the path of mystery, transformation, revolution, and revelation. She is a radical force of love and blazes with rebirth and creativity from the ashes of her past. If your heart stirs when you hear the word priestess, then know that she is calling you home to the rising flame of the feminine that is your essence and your destiny. And the next one. She is rising in you. She is the flame in you. She is the truth in you. Here's a beautiful, now we're entering Pisces. So it's known, its glyph and its symbol represents two fish. This is a beautiful image that Claudia found, so thank you. And it's about deep water. So there's 3 water signs in the zodiac. These 3 water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Each one of them has a modality. The modality of the Pisces water sign is what is called mutable. So that means that it's very adaptable, flexible, and it's going to bring change. As the last sign of the zodiac, Pisces has really absorbed all the lessons through the alchemical gateways of everything that has come before. So Pisces, by its nature, will be in a sacred reveal of all that has come before. You may have noticed over the last few days, or perhaps today, that you are reviewing in a way like life lessons. Pisces, as the 12th and as the final of the zodiac, is the most karmic house and sign, and it wants to tie up loose ends karmically. It doesn't want to have them just floating along anymore. It really wants to address unresolved karmic concerns and begin to really work with them and to resolve them so that there can be this next birth in the evolution of the soul. It's very, very deep water. It's like one of the key symbols I would say is like the deepest ocean, like with the whales and the songs of the whales. If you've ever heard whales singing deep in the ocean, it's something that's haunting and mystical, and they are the keepers of the song lines of interconnectivity all through the waters of the planet. This is about the deepest song lines in the healing of our being, the song lines of our lineages, the song lines of our ancestors, the song lines of our future generations. It wants to deeply feel in order to truly heal. Okay, so that's a key understanding and theme, to deeply feel in order to truly heal. So we're taking a very deep dive with Pisces, and this is a beautiful image to evoke this gateway. Let's go to the next one. Oh, another sign. I didn't see that one yet. Now you see the 2 fish, and they're circular, and they also seem as if they're swimming in opposite directions. So there's going to be a uniting of the forces of polarity within us. Sometimes it can feel like we're pulled apart in 2 different directions. For example, our feelings pull us one way and our logistical rational mind pulls us another way. And so we can feel kind of pulled apart, and there's a push-pull and a kind of struggle that happens. But the real power of Pisces is to bring an integrated flow. And like a Vesica Pisces symbol, it wants to join the opposites and then give birth to the creative energies of the third thing that happens when the 2 come together. And so we'll go to the next slide. Another beautiful image. Oh, I love the animation too.
I knew you
like
loved that.
really, really deeply, like letting ourselves be lifted by spirit and to lift the prayers up. Like, just take your hands to your heart for a moment and really hold a deep prayer as we see this image. Like, just hold a deep prayer. You can place your hands on your body, something that's really like just full longing and yearning and the deepest prayer of your being right now. Feel it and name it. And now just lift it up. Like, see this image and feel yourself being lifted up. Lift these prayers up and trust, that spirit's really got us. Grace has our back. Thank you for this. Let's go to the next one. Okay, now to come into some specifics. So right now we're at the noon hour. Tonight, Pacific time, depending on, I know we're in all different time zones, but 11:06 p.m., so about 11 hours from now is when we have the exact new moon. The sun moved in Pisces yesterday at 2:34. And so we are now officially, once the moon comes in with the sun at this exact conjunct, we're in Pisces season. So we'll go to the next one. Okay, an overall theme is be, flow, and dream. Trust the process and go with the flow. If there's ever a go with the flow kind of moment, it is now. And we'll go to the next one. Here are central themes. There are many, but I just kind of condense things for us to have an anchor. My goal here is for us to first establish an anchor so that we can have an overall understanding, and then we'll bring it more into ritual space. So central themes here: sacred pause, dare to dream, feel to truly heal, open to source energy. Let go of being the doer. Let's pause with that one, because that's a tough one. So let go. Pisces is asking us to actually let go of being the doer and simply be. Take time for you with self-care. Surrender more and trust the process. Review what you've learned up to now. Listen to understand versus listen to respond. Let me pause with this one. This is one of our agreements, actually, in the ritual priestess sisterhood. What this means is when we're in conversation with someone, or it could be with an aspect of our own self, that as we're listening in the conversation, notice like all the faculties of the mind or the ego or of the shadow operating unconsciously that are already preparing us to respond. So we're not listening with full presence. We're more like setting ourselves up for what we're going to say in defense or in validation of, or to prove ourselves. So listen to understand is very Pisces. It means like full presence, full engagement, allowing ourselves to empty out so that from a very spacious and gracious place, we are listening. I would encourage, if any of you are in relationship, like a deep, intimate relationship, or just like some of your closest friends or kids, and you notice that there's conflict in communication, I would encourage you to just practice this one thing so that the next time you're in a straining kind of communication, remind yourself to listen to understand. Let go of your defenses and the need to prove yourself or validate yourself, and simply open yourself to listen and then see what happens. This is one of the great communication skills for the real art of relating, and it's a game changer. It is very Piscean code as well. More themes: forgiveness, compassion, and merging with vast spirit. This is a time to increase our spiritual practices like prayer, yoga, meditation, communion with nature, dancing, whatever, gardening, whatever it might be for you. Let go of the struggle, the push and pull, and the swimming upstream. Know that this is a moment of positive shifts for both romantic and creative expressions. Remember that we are all connected and we are the same energy as the sun, moon, and stars. And then in the silence, we can truly hear the innermost call of our being in this now miracle moment of time. These are some key themes for us. Now we'll bring it into some specific codes with the next slide of Pisces. And again, this is a distillation so that it gives us an anchor. Pisces codes in general are dreamy, intuitive, trusting the flow, really being an agent of spirit. An agent of spirit. Like, how are we as spiritual beings really serving the greater whole as an agent of spirit? Surrender more, artistry and creativity. This Pisces is the most betwixt and between. It's the most liminal space. It's the most dreamy. It's about dream tending. It's about being between the realms. It's about accessing information, both through the physical and the subtle. It is a very powerful, transcendent kind of expansion of our being, but simultaneously being able to be in the matter of our physical embodiment and to source from both. It is deeply in service to humanity, to asking us to just be more at ease in our power to dream, highly psychic and empathic. It is the endless deep ocean of emotions. It is the most compassionate sign of the zodiac. It's also the sign of sacrifice, and it knows how to let things go. It's the most karmic house that I was talking about before, and sign, and it wants to tie up a lot of loose ends. It is a natural channel for divine downloads and mystical states. It is the codes of the dreamers, mystics, poets, healers, empaths, spiritual guides, and mentors. And then we always have some shadow side to explore. And in Ritual 13 Moon Mystery School, we love to track our shadows so that we can be shadow dancers. So we're going to go to the next slide. And we bring our awareness and we name the shadow places, because if we don't turn towards our shadow and know our pain and come into relationship with it, then we cannot transform it. So the thing is with shadow is that it, if it's left unattended to, it grows in knotted up ways inside of us. It pushes us into reactionary states. We have these default places. So like, let's say an emotional trigger happens, and then we just automatically go into our default place. Like maybe that default place is we close down and go away. Maybe the default is that we numb out and we try to numb our pain. Maybe the default is that we get enraged and we attack. Maybe the default place is being passive aggressive. So like this, but shadow will take up a lot of space inside of us, and it depletes and drains our vitality as well as our creative energy. So to be a shadow worker, of which I am, really means to be dedicated to liberation, because when we track our shadow and we start to untie the knots that shadow is twisting up inside of us, we open up the currents and we liberate those stuck places so that we can see it, name it, be accountable to it, and then expand the liberating creative energy. So it's incredibly nourishing and, beautiful family, I will say joyful to know your shadow places. So here are some of the Pisces shadow. And again, I do a lot of work with couples, relationships, alchemy of love with my partner. And I would say that one of our primary tools of success for our relationship, which is deeply beautiful, is that we are both committed to knowing our shadow. So here we go, a few shadow places. Pisces wants to escape. It is so deep feeling and such an empath that it feels it all, gets overwhelmed, and is like, I can't take it anymore. I just need to escape. It wants to escape through addictions. Pisces often, so in this house, 12th house and Piscean shadow, can turn to substance abuse, alcohol, substances, numbing out, scrolling endlessly, Netflix binging. That's one of my favorites. Just find a good series and then watch all the episodes like all through the night. I love it. Codependency, numbing out to the pain. Pisces needs an empathic shield. It's so highly intuitive and feeling that if it doesn't create a protective boundary around itself, it cannot know what is mine and what is yours. And so this, in the shadow school training that I'm in, we speak of as the empathic shield, and we learn how to really protect ourselves, not close ourselves off from feeling, but have an empathic shield, as if like the cellular membrane around each cell has to be semi-permeable, right? For the intelligence and the code of the cell to be healthy. If it lets everything in or everything out with no protective semi-permeability, it's all a big chaos and mess. So for the health of our being, we have to know what to let in, what to move out. And there needs to be this kind of semi-permeability in the cellular membrane or the empathic shield of our being. Other shadow things is getting lost in magical thinking or getting lost in fantasy and becoming just super ungrounded and not wanting to deal with reality. Can sleep too much, or the endless scrolling. Tries to save the world at their own expense. This is the sign of the martyr and the renunciant, and will just like sacrifice themselves for others. Overly passive and doesn't want to face conflict. Can take on the role of a victim, martyr, or even self-sabotage of the saboteur. Wants to stay attached to the struggle versus letting go. Yeah, and write, like I see the chats coming in. So just write in things that resonate with you or give you a little like, ooh, I can feel that or see that, or it gives you insight. And it keeps us community tending. It gets lost in a sea of emotions, becomes overwhelmed by them. It needs time alone because it's becoming too enmeshed in the busyness of life. And instead of dreaming, it goes down a rabbit hole of anxious thoughts and feelings. So these are some of the shadow aspects. Now let's come to the next one, because I want to flesh out some of the astrological influences of this now moment, because there's more than just, there's the codes of the new moon and of a full moon and of the season, but then there's more. So we have to go to the next slide. Okay. Just a couple key things for right now. And there's one thing I really want to tune in on because it's going to set us up for the next 2 years. So first, just right now in this moment, we have what's called a favorable connection between the planets of Venus and Pluto. Venus is all things sensuality, it's relationships, it is just wanting to really take care of ourselves, having material comforts as well, our values, our core values. It's also money. And then Pluto is the sign that just wants to transform everything, okay? Now, Venus and Pluto are in a favorable connection right now, and it's asking us to explore our emotions on a very deep level through this day in particular, and it's also heightening our passions. So I would encourage you, for whatever else you're going to do today, is to do something that lets you really deeply explore your emotional self, like come with deep emotional intimacy, write, journal, reflect, feel, and really go for it. And also just let your passions get heightened. Like, what is really calling to you in a passionate way, and really respect that. Then tonight, about an hour after the exact new moon, Venus is going to go into the bold and unapologetic and quite fiery Aries. So everything that you're reflecting on right now in this Piscean moment is about to get bolder in the passions through Venus by midnight this time. Now, Mars in Gemini right now is giving a big push for new ideas. And I just want to tell you a funny story, because I dream, I'm a big dreamer, and I dream tend a lot. And this year I'm going to bring dream temples into the world more. So I often dream in mantra. And yesterday morning, I was I was dreaming of this mantra, and it literally, I woke up with this Om Namah ideas, Om Namah ideas. And I was laughing so much because, I was mostly thinking about Om Namah Shivaya, but it was coming through as Om Namah ideas. That is very Mars right now in Gemini, pushing ideas like to the forefront. So I thought that was kind of funny. Now, here's the big one. On March 7th of this year, the planet Saturn, which is the planet of boundaries, of restrictions, of accountability, it's the task master, it's the rule implementer. It wants to like get us on purpose. It wants to take out all the extraneous, out all the fluff. So that planet, that task master planet, and also the master of time, of linear time, is about to move into Pisces all the way until February of 2026. Okay, the last time this happened, so now I want you to think back, reflect back to these years between 1993 and to 1996. Can you remember anything that was shifting in your life? That is the last time that Saturn was in Pisces. Now, interestingly for me, that initiated in my early 20s, meeting all sorts of spiritual gurus and mentors and guides, like a series of them out of nowhere. It was mind-blowing. So notice, because we're going to pick kind of back up when you have these big themes, what was going on in your life 1993 to 1996? Is there anything that stands out? And just know that that's now coming back around, and it's probably going to get refined even more and take you to the next level. So for these next couple years, Saturn is going to bring order, form, boundaries, restrictions, and accountability to things that have just been like going off the hook in boundless ways, chaotic ways, and need some order to them. I want to flesh this out a little more because this is a really important one for us to just know about these next couple years. Go to the next slide. And I'll come back and read all your, keep writing in the chat box. I love it. It keeps us engaged. Okay. So something happened. We'll take off that of community later before we send the slides out. But here's a couple key things about Saturn and Pisces. It is going to slow things down for reevaluation. So things that have just been like running wild, it's actually going to pull back, slow down, and say, okay, now I want to reevaluate. It is a wake-up call to break us free from comforts that hold us back from real change. It is asking us how we want to become more responsible and accountable, especially in relationship to our own addictions and the ways that we want to escape. Okay, so just know that this is here. It's going to be a big reevaluation. What are our own personal habits? Are the places where we're getting stuck in comfort zones, the places where we're numbing out, the places where we're reaching in addictive ways. This is all going to come into focus and ask us to now choose something new. Saturn meeting Pisces is ready to bring boundaries and slow things down. Now this, I always read a lot of different astrologers. This is this astrologer, David Odyssey, and I was just smiling, Claudia, and I knew you would love this. He said that this next few years in particular will be about the mainstreaming of ritual practice to create new spaces of community. That is one of the key things that Saturn and Pisces is going to bring. And I was smiling so much when I read this from David Odyssey. So because my commitment and what has been just singing and just calling to me is to really serve community through collective ritual. And that means like collective rituals of healing, grief rituals, collective rituals to take us through rites of passage, collective rituals for marriage, for blessing ways, for menopause, for menarche, rituals for conscious breakups, rituals for coming together in deeper intimacy. So to really facilitate the spaces of collective ritual, because I really believe that our planet right now, for the healing of what we need, is that we need community spaces. We need, and we're coming through these past 3 years of so much isolation and really a big digitalization. There's just a lot of digital now, and we can really get lost in all of this. We have to consciously hone it in, create these collective spaces for ritual. And Saturn in Pisces is all about this. So big smile, big shout out. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now we're going to come into this temple. So this is where we're going to write a little bit and also set up for this water ritual. So what I'd like to do first is I'm going to bring us back to this slide, and we can stop the screen share. We're going to come back. This word is the English word contemplation. So let's pause. I love the etymology of words. So when you come in, if you come into the ritual mystery school, you'll see we work a lot within the astrological understanding as well. And we get to really know our own natal birth chart too, just as part of one of the key tools for us as priestess. So I have a lot of Gemini. I have a lot of wordsmithing. And so I have a great love of the etymology, where words come from. And this word contemplation, if we kind of be with that, con and come is like a drawing in and a joining together. And then into what? Into the temple. So contemplation is kind of this beautiful betwixt and between space of like just deep, absorptive, meditative space, inner vast interior, just openness of our being. And then on the other side of that, being very physically connected with what we're writing, doing, saying. So in between those two is contemplation, where we come into the temple and we begin to ask questions and respond and write with them and speak them. And so we're kind of betwixt and between those worlds.